On the shores of the Baltic Sea, there is a small country that many people might not even be able to locate on the map. It's not like the history of Latvia is very well known either, but let me give you a little spoiler to get you interested. At one point, it forged a small and short-lived empire with territories in Africa and America. Even though Latvia, Estonia, or Lithuania aren't countries with much international relevance today, they are countries with an excellent quality of life and a very strong identity. Have you ever thought about moving to the Baltic countries or to any country in Europe? If your answer was yes, I imagine you've also considered the huge headache that comes with all the bureaucratic paperwork. Well, today I have great news for you. Today you can save yourself from all that boring paperwork thanks to Living Europe. Thanks to Living Europe, you'll find the best legal advisors for your arrival in Latvia or any country in the old continent. Whether you want to work or study, Living Europe will review your case and support you from your first consultation until you adapt to the country. Since you're a follower of Sebas map, I have a surprise for you. Contact the WhatsApp number I left in the description and the first comment. Tell them you're reaching out in my name and you'll get a first consultation completely free. Ask because this could be your first step toward fulfilling your dream of living in Europe. Returning to our topic, at what point did Latvia achieve this small feat and how did it end up as a small republic constantly threatened by Great Russia? Are you interested? Go ahead, then stay until the end of the video. The origin of Latvia goes back to the emergence of the Baltic peoples, whose origin is associated with the Slavs. Because of this, linguistically, we talk about the Balto-Slavic languages. The big difference is that while the Slavs became Christianized during the early centuries of the Middle Ages, the Baltic peoples kept their beliefs, being considered the last pagans of Europe. Likewise, they did not form organized states and instead lived in tribes. The ones relevant to us, Curonians, Semigallians, Silonians, and Latgalians, settled in what is now Latvia. Would all this change? In the 13th century, under the cry of Deus Vult, Pope Celestine III authorized the kingdoms of Sweden, Denmark, and the German knightly orders, the Livonian and Teutonic orders, to undertake the Baltic Crusades. In theory, to Christianize these pagans, in practice, to conquer territories. The ones relevant to us are the Livonian Knights who, after their crusade, formed Terra Mariana in 1207 with its capital in Riga and with the German bishop Albert von Buxoveden as governor, whose statue still stands in the center of the city. In 1236, the Livonian order suffered a catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Sol at the hands of the Samogitians. The surviving Livonian Knights were assimilated as an autonomous branch of the Teutonic Order, future Prussia, which would later become Germany. Despite this victory, things did not change much for the Baltic natives, now under the rule of Königsberg. The modus operandi was a German aristocracy that turned the Latvians into serfs but allowed for the economic growth of the territory, since Riga was a key port of the famous Hanseatic Riga. All of this would change in the 19th century when the region became surrounded by great powers, Russia, Poland, Lithuania, and Sweden. Oh, the mess that's starting to build up. By the mentioned century, the Protestant Reformation had weakened the Catholic authority of the religious orders. That is, both the Teutonic and the Livonian orders were extremely weakened. In this context, the Livonian War breaks out. Russia, in its eagerness to find an outlet to the Baltic Sea, invades Livonia, which formed an alliance with the other powers, Sweden, Denmark, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. After 25 years of war, the coalition managed to expel the Russians, and the foreign help for the Livonians was supposed to be free. But no, Sweden and Denmark divided up present-day Estonia, while Poland-Lithuania occupied present-day Latvia. The last master of the Livonian order, co-star Kettler, agreed to secularize the order, becoming the first duke of the new state. Duchy of Courland and Semigalia, a vassal state of Poland-Lithuania with its capital in the Latvian city of Jelgava, and although nominally this duchy was never an independent country, well, just so you know, it experienced great economic prosperity, becoming a minor commercial and colonial power during the 17th century, especially during the reign of Jakob Kettler. It was at this time that Courland and Semigalia undertook expeditions that allowed it to establish small colonies on the island of Tobago, in the Caribbean and in Gambia in West Africa. The problem was that no matter how prosperous it was impossible for it to compete with the great European powers. After a couple of decades, the Courlanders were expelled by the Dutch and the English, respectively. And back home, things wouldn't get any better either. The territory once again became an epicenter of war between powers. In 1629, the Swedes took over the north of Courland, and in 1721, after the Great Northern War, the Russians expelled the Swedes from Estonia and were breathing down the Courlanders' necks. Poland-Lithuania, for its part, still as a state that had nominal sovereignty over Latvia, began its decline in the 18th century. Do the partitions of Poland ring a bell? They do, don't they? Prussia, Austria, and Russia divided its territories in 3 rounds. And guess where the Duchy of Courland and Semigalia ended up? Exactly. Mother Russia officially annexed Latvia in 1795, a mother the Latvians would soon begin to disown. We are now in the 19th century, known as the century of nationalisms. In the case of the Latvians, the fact that they had a semi-autonomous state for centuries, which even founded a small empire, contributed to this nationalism. Intellectuals like Kesianis Valdemars, together with movements such as the Young Latvians, promoted the Latvian language, folklore, and identity. The Russians, for their part, promoted the industrialization of Riga, to the detriment of the former capital Jelgava, which led to the formation of an urban working class. What does this sound like to you? Exactly, to a proletarian revolution? So let's move ahead to World War I, which is synonymous with the decline and fall of the Russian Empire. The Germans occupied the territory while Russia was bleeding out in its civil war. The Latvian nationalists took advantage of the panic and, with the support of the United Kingdom and Poland, who were interested in harming Germany and Russia respectively, they achieved their independence. And the Bolsheviks tried to establish a Soviet Latvia, which did not succeed thanks to the British blockade and Polish ground attacks. Thus, the first independent Republic of Latvia was born, officially recognized by the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in 1920, and which joined the League of Nations a year later. After centuries of foreign rule, Latvians finally gained their independence, and they really did quite well. In just over a decade, Latvia achieved remarkable development. Industries, universities, and a democratic system emerged, which had the support of Western powers. However, this changed in 1934 when Kārlis Ulmanis established an authoritarian regime, dissolving the parliament and concentrating power in himself. However, the real disaster would come with World War II. In 1940, after the secret agreement between Abigail and Stalin, the famous Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, the 3 Baltic countries were annexed by the Soviet Union after a deceptive agreement for military protection. A year later, the Germans occupied the country, annexing it to the Reichskommissariat Ostland. The most affected were Jews, Roma, and Latvian communists, who were sent to concentration camps. However, after the victory at Stalingrad, the Red Army regained control, reincorporating Latvia in 1944. The Latvian Soviet Socialist Republic was then established as one of the 15 constituent republics of the U Soviet Socialist Republic, something that was not recognized by the Western powers. In fact, the United States placed the Baltic countries on the list of nations captive to communism. This did not prevent the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics from maintaining sovereignty over the country. Throughout the entire Cold War, some partisans, known as the Forest Brothers, tried to resist the Soviet occupation, but without success. During this period, collectivization and the massive immigration of Russian citizens stand out to the point of changing the country's demographic composition. The Latvians then had to wait until the 1980s, the decade of the decline of the Soviet Union, summarized by perestroika and glasnost. The three Baltic countries were the first to take advantage of the situation to accelerate their independence, he points out. In August 1989, the Baltic chain, Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian citizens formed a human chain over 600 kilometers long that crossed Tallinn, Riga, and Vilnius to demand the withdrawal of the Soviet occupation. 2 years later, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics disintegrated and the three Baltic countries gained their independence. Since then, Latvia undertook an exemplary process of reforms, privatized the economy, implemented a democratic system, and clearly aligned itself with the West. In 2004, Latvia joined NATO and the European Union. The Latvians see their greatest challenge as the latent Russian threat. Several Russian citizens who settled in Latvia have not obtained citizenship after the country's independence. This could create a situation similar to that of Ukraine, where Putin invokes the protection of Russians outside his borders to justify his invasion of the country. For this reason, the Baltic countries, which could be isolated from the rest of NATO if Russia closes the Suwałki corridor, are on maximum alert. A state fueled by centuries of foreign domination, and one that Latvians are not willing to take lightly. Would you consider this fear justified? Don't forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Also, I'm leaving my social media links in the description, and in case you want to watch the new videos at the premiere and have more interaction with me. Your donations on Patreon, Unamanito.net, or channel memberships are welcome. See you next time.